the cost of one SUV that these politicians like to get every year, right?
Do one SUV.
You know, the man
Give up one SUV.
Yeah, man, the man don't do the maths. You see? So, yes, this is our call.
Who's going to give up their SUV?
That is
Minister of Defense.
That is the question. But yes, we're calling on those things. You see, we have a lot of topics that we've covered thus far, and we want to let people know that they're interconnected, they're interrelated. All of these things tie into a greater scope of things. Because I like to say to the youth, you know, don't let any ghost fool you. The bottom line is this: we have a constitution, we have a flag, we have a border. Those who matter have recognized this since 1981. And I've been saying this from day one, and I still haven't heard a sufficient answer to it. When we've been calling for a no ICJ vote, I have asked this question. I said, what tangible, measurable, discernible, and quantifiable things has Belize as a nation missed out on since 1981 as a result of Guatemala's unfounded claim on our territory? And I point out, quite frankly, we are full members of the Commonwealth of Nations. We're full members of the United Nations. We're full members of CARICOM. We're full members of SICA. And I say that with a highlight, because if Guatemala's unfounded claim on our territory, on our sovereign territory, was so considerable, there's no way we'd be sitting at the table at SICA. And for those who don't know, SICA is the Central American integration effort that comprises all Central American nations. And also, ironically enough, we're full members of the OAS also, who is pushing this ridiculous call to go to the ICJ. But the buck stops with the people of Belize, because it is our so-called leadership that have signed on to this debauchery, is what I call it. Because basically what they have done, they have ceded to a certain extent certain elements that are core to the Belizean identity and national pride. I say this because on September 21st, 1981, we had a border that was clearly defined. The Karns were there. The British had kept it up to that point. And now, from the signing of that compromise, our border has been transformed to that of encompassing this so-called adjacency zone. That within itself has given Guatemala the wherewithal to do what they want. And us having leaders on this side of the border, and I say border in bold letters because that's what we have, it has done us no good. It has done us no good because, in essence, Belize is digressing with regards to this issue. And that's why it's so key that civil society organizations like the Belize Territorial Volunteers, the Belize Coalition for Justice, and others join together and continue this push. The key is resistance. The key is resistance, my people, because like in all things, we have a prime minister of the past that said it, I guess, best. This one blow over like one leaf breeze. And I think that's what they think is going to happen. But this is not going to happen because we're dealing with our national territory, our sovereignty, our identity.
Those in government have raised the question, particularly when you have certain factions calling for no ICJ or not voting in the referendum. What is it that then Belize is going to do in order to get rid of this issue once and for all? And they're saying that, you know what, the ICJ is the only way we can do this because it's a sure case for Belize. Once we got a court, we are win, thing done.
It's not the only way. And we are solving the problem as we grow older. When I was, I mean, every year you could see it. The relationship between Belize and Guatemala continues to get better. It's just the government who I consider a hustle. Like the people who are on this, the foreign affairs and this referendum committee, it has become like an industry. So they're doing, you know, the Guatemalan claim has become like an industry. They're doing what they do best to save their jobs so that funding keep coming. It's like an NGO keeping a project going. So that's what they're doing with the Guatemalan claim. They are not serious about solving this Guatemalan claim. If we get the business people together who continue to push for trade between Guatemala and ourselves, and it's happening on a daily basis. When I was a younger person, there was only one boat going from PG to Guatemala back and forth, one per week. Then the relationship grows and gets better, then there become two per week. Now there's like 5 boats every day going back and forth. So the relationship is getting better. from the Halacte border, from the Dolores, which there's a border there. There's no checkpoint. There's no nothing. People go back and forth. There is this relationship, and Belize could benefit financially. We keep crying a hard time. If we just tax everything that's going or coming and people pay their duties, we could make tremendous amount of money on this. But they are ignoring the fact. So to solve this dispute, we just need to continue to build our relationship with them. The business community, they're not concerned about a dispute because they continue to build a relationship with Guatemala. And the Guatemalans, I speak with Guatemalans all the time, who's like saying, look, we recognize Belize, it's just the governments, government to government. But when it comes people to people, there's a great relationship. And Paco, going back to the letter that you wrote to the OAS and to the Secretary General, it was, never got a response. But even closer to home, I was so disappointed when I wrote the CEO in the Ministry of Defense, and I wrote the Commandant in the Ministry of Defense. And the Commandant, you know, when he got this job, Commandant Jones, right? He's the head of the BDF. I was like so happy because this man, he is like, he knows what's going on. I consider him a roots man. He's from Neil Penn Road. I know all these things because he used to come and we used to chat a little bit. He's like a roots man. I'm happy and what? We got a guy there that understands the situation, that is not afraid of going into the bushes, that knows these border current. If nobody knows it, the Commandant knows this border current. He knows where it's at. I wrote to this one and just informing him and didn't even have the decency to respond and say we got the letter. I'm writing them again because this coming July, we are taking the youths. We have the Youths for the Border Initiative because our youths must know where our borders are and our youths must be familiar with our country. And too often, they keep these things away from them. So we're taking over 100 youths to the border this July. And it's the youth. So we will be writing to the Minister of Defense, to the CEO again, and to the Commandant. We want BDF presence there because